Okay, so we are recording now. All right, everybody, welcome. This is the A3 Low and Mid Workshop. I am Steven. Hope you're doing well. So this is what we're going to do. I have opened up on the left tab here in Chrome. You can see that I have the segment guide here. I also have the teacher's portal here for the smart textbook, and I also have the reading book here as well. So we can consult all three of those things. The purpose of this is just to give everyone an idea of how A3 works. I'm going to use A3 Giga because that is the class that I have the most experience with. And if anyone has any questions, you can, as I said before, email me in the chat. So let's just go ahead and get started. All right. If there's also any problems with anything, screen sharing, visibility, annotations, feel free to let me know, or audio, anything like that. So here's A3 Giga. If you look here, this is the segment guide. You can get this on the MERP. The MERP will have it under class material downloads. You can do that on your tab, or you can do it on the MERP at your branch location on the PC, and you can download this document. So let's go ahead and just take a look real quickly at the objectives and what applies to you. The first objectives is to understand, analyze, evaluate information from long oral and written texts in simple language that deal with general topics. Then to generate one's thoughts and ideas based on the comprehensive interpretation of relevant content. And let me pull up the annotation feature here. I think annotations are disabled. Okay. To communicate one's thoughts and ideas effectively in both speaking and writing using basic vocabulary and simple structures in a coherent paragraph. The simple way to put this is there's going to be reading passage, and your job is to just really get in there and dissect it and make sure the kids understand what's happening, the different viewpoints in it, the different arguments that are made. That applies to higher levels like A3 mid, and to be able to summarize it orally and in written form. If you look at the learning flow sheet here, what applies to you is here in the blue, the C learning. Vocabulary, scanning, oral summary, summary writing, story analysis, and project. That is what you're going to do every class. The I learning and the e-learning takes place outside of class. The students handle that. And then the next week they come back and you start here. Does anyone need, you can respond in the chat. Would you like for me to send this PDF over to you now? Would that help, or is everything okay with just viewing it on my screen? If you would like it, I can upload that. And for some reason, the annotations are not here. I don't know why. So I can't annotate. Anyway, let me.
Steven?
Yes.
I'm having trouble even clicking into the chat.
Really?
I don't know if anyone's experiencing that.
I do not know why that is. Let me check this. Everyone is yeah, I've got the chat enabled. Everyone should be able to access it publicly. I'm not really sure what's going on there.
I don't know. Maybe other people can use it. It could just be my computer. And that's fine if it is, but I just wanted to make sure.
And if you can't chat with me, it's okay. Then we'll try to, you can communicate with me verbally. Okay. I'm sending the A3 low segment guide, and for some reason it does not allow, I think it's not letting me send it, and I don't know what that is all about. I'm very confused. I just sent it to Richard directly, but it's now telling me I can't send it to everyone, and I have no idea why. Just give me 1 minute, everyone. I'm trying to get it going. Sarah, I'm going to send it to you right now directly because it is not letting me send it in open to everyone, and I don't know why. And now it's not letting me upload any files. Okay, so unfortunately, everyone, I cannot send you this, and I have absolutely no idea why. And Richard just sent it to you all, so please access it from what Richard sent. Sorry about that.
And suddenly I'm able to click into the chat. So
Okay. I think everybody knows the deal with Zoom. Now the entire world's on it, and they're trying to figure out how to handle all the traffic. Okay, so we're back on this page. So here you go. You're going to have, if you look at Mega Gigatera, you have a storybook as well that you'll use. Your branch will provide you with that. Here is the class structure. Okay, this is a pretty good time breakdown. Time management's pretty difficult in this class, in my opinion, because what you're doing is making sure that they really thoroughly, comprehensively understand the readings. And with low level, obviously that's difficult. And then in mid, some of the topics get a little bit more difficult. For example, I've taught A3 Birdie, and I remember a passage being about different ways of smelting iron. That's pretty, I guess, esoteric for young kids in a second language. So it can be kind of hard. So you do need to prepare pretty clearly in advance about the passage so that you are able to effectively teach them what they need to know about it, and so they're able to summarize it. So here you have admin, the first 15 minutes of class. That's the review test. You start that on week 2. Try to get that done as quick as possible. Vocabulary and speaking. Okay, the word map and prediction. This says 10 minutes. I would shoot to get this done in 5. You can get through that page pretty quickly. That's a good way to save some time. And then jump into words in context. They say 15 minutes here, 15 to 20 usually is what it takes me. We're going to go and look at these pages individually as well. Reading and speaking, that's the in-class reading and scanning, 35 minutes. I would recommend that you popcorn read that. That's usually what I do to make sure the kids are paying attention to it. And then you take your break. Then you come back, you do listening, reading, and speaking, oral summary, where they do the retelling, the summarization. 15 minutes, the summary writing, 40 minutes. This page definitely takes a while. Sometimes you can get it done quicker than that. You're going to figure out how your class is able to move through it. Final hour, story analysis, and the thinking project. One thing I do want to say, and headquarters might call me out and correct me for this, but I always believe that the priority of this class is full understanding of the reading passage no matter what. And there have been times where I have chosen to focus, maybe cut short some of these other components at the end, like the analysis of the project, like cover the concepts, but make sure that sometimes I've run over with the summary writing part and ensuring that they really understand what's going on in the passages before a project. You always want to do the project, but if they don't understand the readings every week and you're still doing the project, that's a serious issue, I think. So just making sure that they can summarize what's going on in the reading is really important. So just to kind of move on to the next little section here. These are the components, vocabulary and speaking. This is the word map prediction. This is the one that shouldn't take very long. You have the pictures. So let me just go ahead. I'm going to do this bit by bit. This is vocabulary and speaking here. Okay. You can see when I said that this shouldn't take 10 minutes. I don't really think that it should. Richard has just sent the Giga storybook in PDF format. So if you can pull that up as well, that's what I'm looking at here. He has sent that to you. Please download that as needed. So this page right here, I don't think it takes 10 minutes. All they're doing is they're adding some words. You have prepared media cards, and then you have a discussion about what's happening in the picture. How does it relate to this word? Why did the student choose the words that they chose? And then try to personalize it and relate it to them. This doesn't take very long, but it's a way to kind of preview what's coming up and let them maybe do some prediction about what could happen in the reading for today for the story. Here, this is the words in context. So this is the second page here. As a class, you're going to break down the sentences in the textbook and discover the meaning of the words in bold. 3 to 4 example sentences using the words. You can elicit example sentences using words from the students. Activate the timer function and give them 2 to 3 minutes per question. They can apply the words, the content, and the exercise. And then you can use show answer. So here, this will be a passage in the book. So you can go and find this and have them look through it and find the answer. You teach them, you can use the scanning stuff in order to find this if they need to go back into the book. But for this, usually they don't need to do that. You can answer these questions based on what you see here. They also have a homework book, a vocabulary book. There's vocabulary and homework exercises. These words are found in that. I think what I usually do is I have them do this without using that book. And if we need to consult the book later, we can. If they're having trouble with something, you can then consult the book. That can help them. But this page here, as you can see, as we just scroll through this, these are just words in context, and the words, this is Giga, so the words are pretty easy. One thing you want to do, though, is I always try to have them go through and find what is happening in the context that they can use to justify their selection of this word. And in the overwhelming majority of cases, that's pretty simple. Sometimes there's not as much there. It can be difficult, and they just have to rely on looking at the vocabulary. But for example, something that is normal is blank and is what people expect. So you could scroll through here and find, is there anything related to normal or usual? Something that I can use in this context to justify the selection of that word. That's how you should answer all of these questions. You can also put media cards here that correspond, and you can use your vocabulary book that they will be given, their homework, their workbook. That can be used as well. So pretty simple. Then we move on to the reading and speaking. The objective here to develop comprehension of the passage through scanning. So I'll jump to the next page. All right, this is reading and speaking. Now, to me, I think this page is really important because it's one of the times in the class that, sometimes I don't know what my student is taking. Maybe they're taking A3 instead of, they're taking A3 instead of A2. Sometimes they can have, I want to make sure that they're being exposed to different question types in the class. So I want to make sure that we're using this time to make sure that they're practicing a little bit of test prep. So that's usually how I approach this, is just a mini little test prep page. Sorry, I need to respond to Richard really quick, guys. One moment, please. All right, so here you should go through. The objective here is to have the students number each line of the storybook before they read. You can do a guided reading, first and second page, call on them to read out loud. After the story ends, you do the Q&A, and then you can discuss the plot. Here they recommend doing independent reading, third page and onward, underlining the main points, annotating as needed. It depends on the skill level of students. You can adjust this as you want. I've done a mix of all these things. Sometimes I popcorn read the whole time because I think it keeps them engaged a bit more and they don't want to be caught not knowing what's going on. But if they're kids that you trust and they're doing pretty well, you can let them do independent reading. It's up to you. I would recommend popcorn reading early on. But when you get to this page here, you're going to get to the scanning, right? And that's this. Okay. So before you do this page, this is where you would want to do the reading to make sure that they've read it. This is just to practice the comprehension, have them scan for the answers and do that independently. And you can use the show answer function to help you to show the answers. Now, one thing, and obviously that's located here. So you'll have all the answers pop up. Sometimes if at the beginning of a class, or if the students are having trouble, I will go and preview the questions first. And that's what I use. That's what I teach them to do in A2 as well. Like if they have the time before they start reading, preview the questions so you know the question stems that are coming. So here, like I would just have them identify the question type. Make sure they know that they're going to be asked something that's true about Janice, and they need to scan for Janice. Same thing. What was Janice problems about the science fair? Problem about the science fair. They need to scan for that. All right. So this gives them an idea of things they could look for in advance. Some students aren't going to need to do this. But if you think that if they're having some trouble, teach them how to preview questions and get them to understand what the question type is and how to answer it. It ties into A2 a bit. As you can see, some of them are written, some of them are multiple choice, true, false, and the segment guide recommends that we spend on this, the reading and scanning, 35 minutes. The stories are not long. If we go and look at the science fair, week 1, you have pages 4 through 13. So it is not a long, it's not, and there's pictures on some of them. It doesn't take long to read this in class. So go through, have them read it, have them annotate it. As I said, I would recommend previewing questions at first so they kind of have an idea of the best way to get the correct answers in the best amount of time. So that's how I handle that. Then the next section we're going to move on to, so you would have a break here. This is when you should be planning to take a break, and then you do the oral summary when you return. So after break, you would jump to page 4 of the SMART textbook here, listening and reading and speaking. And you can consult the book as needed, but what we have here is, this is all put in context. They've, just like they did with the words in context page. So if I go here, this is about 15 minutes of retelling on this page. The retelling page, they recommend 15 minutes. So here we are at retelling. They recommend 15 minutes for this. Sometimes this is usually, sometimes I have a hard time meeting the 15-minute goal with this. So just so you know, that's usually a little difficult. On this page, you have different functionality, but real quick, I do want to go over and I know I'm skipping everywhere, but here we go. This page is to help them understand, to help them build better expression abilities through the memorization of key sentences. Develop accurate listening skills is the first part in the retelling section. They play an audio file and fill in the blanks, and they play back key points if necessary, and then you can access the file here. You can see that there. You review and discuss the answers as a class, and then they can retell each paragraph by paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is really important here, using synonyms, different word forms and sentences, and then they record the answers. So just to kind of give you an idea, you would be on the first page, you would click here.
The school year was almost finished, and the Jefferson High School Science Fair was coming soon. More than anything, Janice Anderson wanted to take first place at the science fair.
So you can see that you have your audio playing from clicking here and there. On your tab, it's going to be the black kind of bar down at the bottom, self-explanatory. You want the kids to fill these in, make sure they get that correctly, and then the first one is given to them, and then they need to paraphrase what is not. After they paraphrase that, they can then record. They will record that here. This is one I often ask them to keep an extra notebook around so they can do some writing if they need to. Typing it in here is kind of a pain, so I would recommend that you have them keep paper or notebook on standby, and then they can write as needed and then apply it to the tab. But this is where you could have them record. You can see by the end, it's not helping them at all. They're responsible for recording both parts of the summary. Okay, so this is about, this is combining listening, reading, and speaking. They're recommending 15 minutes. In my experience, 15 minutes is difficult to achieve. So I've found that I try to speed up other components to have more time for this. But, it's important we're covering listening, reading, speaking, and writing in these classes. So this is an important page to, to get them to do. So we're in summary writing now. So if we go and look here, here's the summary writing. Remember, they're saying about 40 minutes on this. finish up your second hour with it. The objective is to develop the summarization skills through comprehension and logical analysis, to develop expression ability through memorization. The summary writing, you direct them to underline the key parts in the storybook. So that's something they should have been doing when they were annotating. The annotation will help them. They identify and write down the missing details given in the outline. So if I were to go here, this is basically the story put into 8 little chunks. Most of it's provided for them. They can go and fill this in here. You can use the show answer so that they can see that. You then move down to this next part. This is eliminate any sentence. This teaches them to go and find the things that are not needed. Okay, so what I usually do is draw a line through it as well, and then they can retype it so that they understand, like, we just want to include what is necessary in our summary. You teach them to remove things. So this is the eliminate, connect, and paraphrase. That's how it's kind of broken down here. All right. You break the sentences into manageable parts in order to simplify the structures, and then they can justify why certain ones aren't important. They can connect. You guide the students to understand the relationship between the sentences and the type of transitions you could use to connect them logically. You can even review transitions here. What type of transition is being used? And then you can brainstorm others. Paraphrasing is the most important, in my opinion, because that's just the final product of everything else you've done. You can show them synonyms that will help them paraphrase. Maybe you can make recommendations, provide some vocabulary assistance as to what the words you've provided, what they mean, and what words they are synonymous to in the original writing. Have the students summarize the passage in their own words using the steps provided. And then you can select a few to review and maybe check some grammar as a class on that. So the rest of that page here, you can see here, this is where they complete the outline. This is the elimination. Okay, this is where they practice transition selection. And then here they are paraphrasing words using synonyms. Okay, so they would need to replace this with when. Replace wanted to take first place with when, and then they rewrite that sentence. And then you can require that they use these sentences to build what is provided at the bottom. See, this will be blank. These will all be blank. And then here, this would be a good summary. Now, everyone could summarize these things differently, which is fine, but you want to make sure that they're getting the key components, and they're not leaving out really any important information when they summarize. So that's the first 2 hours. Okay, so the first 2 hours, the goal is for you to be finished with the summary writing, and then you have story analysis and thinking project. Some thinking projects, I don't really think they take 35 minutes, and I'm going to show you why when we get to that. So right now, does anybody have any questions thus far? I know I've went over the first 2 hours. Can someone, you can message me in the chat, or yeah, there's 14 of us in here. If anybody needs to ask me, you can ask me something. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and jump to the next section. Okay, so this is story analysis. We're here, and they recommend 20 minutes on this. So today's story analysis is going to be based on the concept of influence. You could have a media card here explaining what influence is, personalize it, relate it to the kids, ask them to talk about who influences them, why those people influence them, just so you get the concept in their head and they understand what we're talking about. And then here, so the purpose of it, sorry for all the scrolling again, it's just to develop the analytical skills. Have students read the instructions and discuss how it's related to the story. You can ask the leading questions, like I said. Have them summarize, outline key points from the event by completing the activity, and then get the answers from the student. So here we're talking about influence and feeling. You can use you need to incorporate the scanning here. So here are 2 things that are provided on the influence side, and then that leads to the feeling. So influence leads to feeling, and then you can scan for this as well. So for example, they're also listed in order in which they will appear in the reading. So this is the first one. So it indicates to you it's going to be near the beginning. And if I go and look for these, everyone wanted to compare them. I expect great things from Agnes Anderson's little sister. You can find that pretty quickly right here. All right. And then everyone seemed to want to compare them. So you can steer the students in that direction, let them scan and find these things in order to get the answers. Okay. Your job is to make sure that the students are getting these answers correct and understand why, obviously. So walk them through this. Something like this, week 1 for Giga, might be pretty difficult for them. So be prepared to spoon feed and give some, and help them out, but just make sure that you're giving them the justification. They're able to repeat the justification to you. They might not fully understand it at first, but over time they'll get used to the drill and they should improve. This is pretty straightforward. You use this, just use the scanning, find the parts, and then connect. You can also look for words in what is here to connect that. What words here relate to influence, what words on the right side relate to feeling. Okay. So for example, how does she feel? Well, she wants to take first place at the science fair. You can ask what kind of feeling that is. Maybe put a media card over here, competitive, and relate competitive to this. So some of these words might not be in the reading. You might have a synonym to describe what the feeling is that isn't provided. Put a media card here with a picture and explain what that is, and then relate it to this. That's an easy way to do it. So as I mentioned, they recommend about 20 minutes for that. And then there should be 35 minutes left for the project. So jumping into the project, the thinking project. So here we're just developing creative and critical thinking skills and the ability to speak in public. This is going to relate to whatever they cover in the reading for the day. You just are confirming understanding of the project. Make sure they know what they need to do. They can do it individually or in groups. You proctor them, supervise them, help them as needed. You select students to share what they've done, and then they can be recorded. And you need to give feedback. You can get feedback from other students. What did they do well? What could they improve? Comparable to what you would do in a C2 class. So for example, this is where I want to kind of compare it to the story here. You can see the story is about the science fair. Okay. And in this story, it's over 2 weeks. There's the next one that covers this too. There's like a part 2 to it. The girl is making something for the science fair. You can see here your project is going to relate to this. Okay, she wants to take first place at Jefferson High School, and you're imagining you're in the science fair, and then it asks them to think of products they use and problems they have with these products. And then here they walk through product, problem, how to improve it, the materials you would need, how much time would you need, and how much do you think it would cost? And then they continue it the next week. So for example, this is a science fair project. One of my students, this is really simple, but they said that they use tape a lot and they get annoyed because the roll of tape rolls away. So they made a triangular tape. You would just go to the store and you would buy tape shaped in a triangle, not a circle. Yeah, fine, that works. I mean, they're thinking about a problem they have and a very simple solution. Likely, at Giga, it's not going to be anything mind-blowing, but that still showed me that they paid attention and understood what the project was. They got it. Also, you're going to have your C learning in weeks 3, 6, and 9, and 12. In this segment guide will show you how to answer these, how to grade students on these. You guys should know how to do this by now. Excellent, good, needs improvement, participation, story analysis, oral summary, creative solution, answer justification, output quality, and presentation skills. Consult this whenever you need to grade the students. I don't want to really spend a lot of time on that. That should be pretty self-explanatory here. iLearning, we don't need to cover that either. You should be doing, as far as I know, I don't know, every branch might be different, but the branches I've been at with A3, that's when they have the achievement test, TOEFL Junior in week 10. And that is a lesson all the way through. As you can see here, the storybook, you have your storybook, table of contents. You just use that for reading in class, and then they're going to have a workbook. You're good. We have them do the workbook. So week 1, they'll come to class, we'll do the reading. They'll be assigned week 1 from the workbook. Week 2, they bring it back and we check it. That's how we handle it. Your branch might have different policies with respect to the workbook grading, but that's how we handle it. So we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. We made it through this. Are there questions from anyone? If you could just message me. If there are. Or you can unmute yourself and ask.
They're reading the story on their tabs, right?
No, they will actually have a separate, so if you look here, this Giga Storybook, the PDF, this will be an actual book that they have. So they need to bring the book to class. They need to bring 2 books to class. That's a good question. They need to bring this storybook and they need to bring a workbook where they would have done the homework, and it also has the vocabulary. So they have to study the vocabulary in the workbook for the test as well, for the vocab test. The vocab test will be on the tab.
Okay.
So they need 2 books. I actually encourage 3. I tell them bring storybook, workbook, notebook for any sort of writing that we want to do to save time, because I think the tab's great for a lot of things, but on the fly listening, text entry is a shortcoming. So I ask them, just like I do in my A2 class, C2 class, anything, bring a notebook that you can write on quickly so that we can move a bit more quick, move things in a faster pace. So they need to have a book. Now the staff will ensure that they will be talking to the parents. The parents will know what they need to have. They should have it. Sometimes our kids don't bring it. Our staff keeps printable copies on standby every week, just in case. I would maybe recommend if your staff do that. If they don't, maybe you can just get a scan of the book, just have 1 copy on standby, and then you can scan it and print it, or you can copy it as students need it. So LEU just sent a message. Are the projects similar to C2 projects? Group projects and have to be recorded every 2nd week. Okay. They're shorter projects, first of all. They are not as large. I mean, as you can see on the, when we look at the teacher's portal here, this is just 1 page for the project. Whereas a C2, there are multiple pages and steps that take, hour to an hour and a half to get through before you get into the presentations. So these are a lot shorter. These are not meant to be anywhere near as involved or as in-depth as what goes on in a C2 class. This is just something you do at the end of the class, kind of to cap it off, to ensure that they got the concepts. And yeah, 35 minutes is all you're spending on this. I mean, this is something that they should develop it quickly, and then you can present a few. And are they to be group recorded projects every 2nd week? That is a question I think HQ would answer. I'm not sure what the requirements will be for recording A3 projects this upcoming term. I can get that information, or maybe Richard can provide that for us. I'm not really sure about that, or what your branch would require about project recording. In C2, obviously you record and you can upload to use the file sharing and you upload with it. But Richard has just sent a message saying that recording these projects in A3, it's up to the branch. I'm going to move on to, let's see, Ainsley, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. How should we split the reading and discussion time in the scan and reading pages as far as using a timer for them to work on their own? Okay, so how should we split reading and discussion time in the scan and reading? So I'm going to assume that you're talking about this right here, the 35 minutes for the reading and
Yes.
the,
Yeah.
okay, so right there. And I'm going to click back to that page really quick here. So that's 35 minutes. I would think try to get the reading done in 15 and then have 20 for this page. That's just off the top of my head. because if the kids are reading and annotating, I mean, you shouldn't spend any more than 20 minutes on the reading. And, you know, like in the beginning, the time management's always difficult. So maybe you just set these timers and you just get as far as you can with the scanning and the reading questions, right? A lot of the times in different classes I have, maybe I'll say, okay, this is Giga. They don't really have a lot of familiarity with the question types. So I just want to make sure they understand how a true, false, one of the, like, which of the following is true, like a factual question. Like the first one is a factual question, and the second one is also a factual question. So maybe it's, I know that we might not get all the way through this page, but have an objective. Say, this is the question type I want to make sure they understand this week. Let's get those covered. And if we run out of time, well, at least we've met a question type objective and we can move on. But, you know, as you do this for a couple weeks, the expectation is, you know, you're going to move through this more quickly and you're going to get through it. Like, when I taught this class, the first couple weeks, they had a lot of trouble and time management was pretty rough. By the end of the term, they could just blow through it. But feel free to set a timer on your tab if you want, or yeah, have one stand by on your phone, or like a secondary timer or whatever. That's fine. Anybody else have any additional questions?
Is it one story the whole term?
Oh, so in this book, what you've got, you can see here, every week is a new story.
Oh.
So Science Fair, Mystery Club, Bewitched, like you'll cover a new one every term. So here is week 1 that ends on page 13. And then the next one, Mystery Club, on page 14. So you'll just cover a new, but you can see on this one's pretty short, like Mystery Club, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that's 19. That's pretty short. These are not very long. And the reading level is not too difficult. It's one of the more, some of the V1s can be a little difficult for the kids at low level, but I found that this one they were okay with it. Any other questions? All right. So I'm assuming that we're good there. Well, I guess that's good that there aren't more questions. Everybody seems, I guess that means you guys understand what we need to be doing. This class it's pretty straightforward. You shouldn't have much difficulty doing it. It's pretty fun too. It's Giga. They usually have a lot of energy. I've only had good experiences with it. The reading is short. It's not too difficult. It's not going to bog them down. In my opinion, this is a pretty solid class for them to make gains in their reading capability. I personally prefer it over V1 Giga, for example.
I do have a question.
Right. Sure, yeah.
Thought of one.
Yeah.
For the listening, so they're filling in like blanks, but should we be emphasizing like note taking or anything like that, or we just want them to listen and find the answers?
So I encourage them to, are you referring to the what is it, the reading, the listening and speaking, the 3-page, like, or are you just
yeah, listening, reading, speaking, where it says retelling and they listen and they play the audio and they like have little blanks throughout.
Right. So here, when they play it, it would be kind of like they're reading along with the listening, you know, so it's like they're hearing it and they're reading this and then they write down on a piece of paper. So I would have them keep this, looking at it and listening, and then writing as they hear it as they're reading. That's how I have them do it, because they can write with their hand a lot faster and they're not clicking on the tab. So I usually don't even let them click on the tab until they've written it down. So like I'll check what they've written down and then I'll say, okay, you didn't write anything. You shouldn't be typing right now. Listen to it again, write it on your paper, then you can type it. Because once they know what they're going to type and they don't have to worry about the listening part, they can just blow through they can just pop, and it's done. So that's the advice I would give there. Because what's going to happen is they're going to be, if you let them do it on the tab, it's playing, and then they go to click it, and then something messes up, and they're just clicking around, and then the passage is already finished, and then you have to play it again anyway. Does that answer the question okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm thinking we're probably pretty good. Richard just sent out, he just included the workshop survey where I guess you guys go and rate me. Try not to be too brutal. So you can click that link there. They would really like for you to fill this out. Feedback to them about these workshops are important, especially now that we're doing them on Zoom. So if everyone would please do that, that would be great. I'm thinking, Richard, we can just go ahead and cut this, or is there anything you want to add on your end from FHR?
Can anyone else not click into the link?
Yeah, so wait, so the link is not clickable for you?
No.
I can't copy paste anything on here.
Yeah, I can't either.
Oh, that's, let me try to send the link.
I got it.
Yeah, maybe it's specific to certain people's Zoom, your account or what it can do. I've had, yeah, just depending on the version I'm using on computers, just different computers, things are funky. Okay, I sent it. See if that works for you. Maybe if I'm the host, I don't know.
I still can't copy it. It like beeps.
Yeah. You get like an error message when you try to copy it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Richard, maybe we can send the link in emails. Yeah, Richard's going to send an email to everyone with the link. If you guys could please check that with the email you registered with, we'd really appreciate that.
Okay.
All right. So everyone is, Fatima just said in the chat, you can right click it and hit open URL. Maybe that works. Right click the link. Is that something that is working?
No.
Yeah, there seems to be like a lack of uniformity or a standard among different Zooms that makes these things kind of difficult. I'm sorry for that.
I got it, so I'm good.
Okay. All right, so any last minute questions? I'm going to go and jump into another one for A2 High. Maybe I'll see some of you in there. Richard sent a text file with the link as well, so you can open this link or this little text document and execute the link from there. He's solving a lot of problems on the fly.
Whenever you sent out like the specific implementation guide, I think like Richard sent it out to everybody. I didn't get that. I couldn't see anything in the chat.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try to send it again. Let me see if I can do that. Because I'm not sure why it's not working either. I mean, my connection is good. There's no reason why it shouldn't be.
Like I got the link and I'm able to get to the website for the survey, but I couldn't.
Richard sent it again. Did you see it that time?
No.
There could be some sort of account setting you have, like a default account that's not letting files pop up in the chat. I really don't know. I'm only speculating because we've had issues with Zoom, like just different people, like there's just different default settings. Richard is going to email it to you, and it's Sarah Kahn, Richard.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to stop the sharing. I feel like we've covered everything. Okay, so it's 11:25. I've got another one at 11:30. Really appreciate you guys showing up. Last minute questions, anyone? Okay, cool. Thank you all. Have a good one. Good luck with the upcoming term. You're welcome. See ya.
Thank you.